It's a bit before my time, but in 1965, a group of scientists wrote a report to U.S. President Lyndon Johnson. They warned that if we didn't get a handle on pollution, it could have lasting, damaging effects. In 1970, U.S. President Richard Nixon, in his inaugural address, said nobody has any more right to pollute the rivers and streams and lakes of the country than someone has a right to throw garbage over the neighbor's back fence. Well, then we got into a decades-long debate about whether it's the ozone layer, greenhouse effect, greenhouse gases, climate change, global warming, and so on. In the late 60s in Vancouver, when Greenpeace was being founded, we were talking about pop cans under the polar ice cap, possible sea level rising, and we were talking about phantom fish nets. They were made of plastic, they broke free from the ships, they caught fish and the fish died and rotted. Then they floated to the surface and caught more fish. All indications are they're still out there, and so is a wad of plastic waste. Here's a look on Throwback Thursday about the oceans. Hello, I'm Alan Bonner, and welcome to At Issue. Author Arthur C. Clarke once quipped that our planet should be called the ocean, not the Earth. After all, the world's ocean covers more than 70% of the planet. Now, I said ocean because the four names we give our four large bodies of water can cause us to think of them as separate from each other. But the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and Arctic Oceans are all one giant interconnected global body of water. But human activity is changing the ocean in many ways: biological, chemical, and physical. This may damage the ocean, which is a complex source of food, transportation, and economic livelihood for much of the world's population. Now, sometimes authors, though, get a great-sounding title for a book foisted on them by publishers.
Right.
So I want you to tell me, is the sea really sick?
It's very sick. It's very sick.
In addition to the blobs with no oxygen,
Yeah.
What makes you say it's sick?
We're changing its chemistry. So we're changing. The thing about the oxygen is actually indicative of future illness, if you want to look at it that way. But if you look at other vital signs of the ocean, so things like when you go to the doctor and they check your blood pressure and they check your blood sugar and all those vital signs that tell you how healthy you are as a person, you can do that to some extent with the global ocean. You can say, okay, what are the signs that are telling us whether it's getting sick, whether it's healthy, whether it's productive? And so I looked at a whole bunch of those vital signs. So I looked not only at oxygen, which is a fascinating story, but also at acidity. It's becoming more and more acidic as we put carbon dioxide up into the atmosphere.
It's going to kill things, one assumes?
Well, the thing is, it gets absorbed. Some of that carbon dioxide gets absorbed by the ocean, just like when you and I breathe in. Everything we breathe in goes into our bloodstream, right? You can't separate those two systems. So everything we put up into the atmosphere gets absorbed by the global ocean. In the ocean, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it changes climate, which is terrible. But in the ocean, a much bigger medium, it actually changes the pH level of the water. But all of the things that live in the ocean have evolved to live in a certain narrow range of pH. And it's going out of those boundaries.
Is it fair to say that we have explored the surface of the Earth far more than we've explored the ocean floor?
Oh yeah, we've only explored about 5% of the ocean floor. To the same degree we have the surface of the Earth, we know more about the backside of the moon than we know about the seafloor. It's a large unknown.
Is it possible, now I know you're a geologist, but anyways, other people can jump in, but is it possible that down there, like in the Amazon rainforest, might be pharmaceuticals, might be foodstuffs and living organisms we don't know about that could be beneficial?
I recently went to the bottom of the ocean, just to 3,000 feet, but that's still, for a journalist, that's a very long way down.
That's deep research,
It's
right?
deep research, and we were looking for cancer cures from sponges that live only on the deep sea bottom. And in fact, and the reason is that if you're a sponge and you can't move and you're on the bottom of the ocean, you communicate chemically with the food you want to eat, and with the mates you want to attract and the enemies you want to repel. So they're like little chemical factories, but they're chemicals that we don't see on other parts of the planet. So I was with a scientific crew going down to take little pieces of these things to see whether they had any cancer-killing organisms in them. And frankly, just 2 weeks after I came up from my trip, the first cancer anti-cancer anti-cancer drug from a marine species was approved in Europe.
Wow.
And it took, decades to get there.
There are also byproducts of mining that are noxious. If you're out there in the ocean conducting the mining, are you just kind of out of sight, out of mind, and free to dispose of the byproducts of mining?
No, I don't think so. In fact, the byproduct of land mining, yes, that a typical mine in Canada or anywhere else in the world, if say it's a big open pit operation, you have to remove something like 3 to 5 times more barren rock than you do ore. Just to get at the ore, you have to remove that, and you have to put it somewhere. These deposits on the seafloor are sitting on the seafloor, they're exposed. They will be doing what has been referred to as surgical mining. They'll just mine the ore and not touch anything else. They don't want to touch anything else. It costs money to do it, and they don't need to.
I'm Alan Bonner. Any views expressed here are not necessarily those of the Mackenzie Institute, its speakers, sponsors, or supporters. But the Institute is dedicated to fostering public discussion, debate, and education about security matters. Google the Mackenzie Institute to join the discussion. The Mackenzie Institute is grateful to its sponsors and supporters. Some of our short pods and long talks are a result of the support of Heathbridge Capital Management Limited, the National Post, and Dundurn Publishing.